Good day, Saints. I hope that you are doing very, very well. And if you're watching this video, that means that you are sticking with us and you are following us all the way through this Bible series. This video is going to be the summary of our reading in October. And October was a huge month for us in all of our reading. At the beginning of this month of October, we finished the Old Testament by reading the book of Malachi. Now, what's interesting is that the word Malachi is actually Hebrew for messenger of God, which is one of the Hebrew words for angel. And so it's interesting, if you know Malachi's, you know that that's what their name means. And what I learned just a couple days ago at a Halloween party is I met a man, and he's from Uganda, and his daughter's name was Malachi, which means angel in their language. And what I realized is that the Kiswahili word Malaika is actually very, very closely related to the Hebrew word Malachi. So who knows? That's really exciting. And so we have that. And appropriately enough, in that final book of the Old Testament, they talk about this messenger that God will send before the Messiah. And a couple chapters later in the New Testament, we read about that messenger who we know as John the Baptist. And so what's fun about this week's summary, or this month's summary, is I get to give a synopsis of the synoptic Gospels. Matthew, Mark, and Luke are known as the synoptic Gospels because they gave a synopsis of the life of Jesus in a certain narrative form. So a couple of things I want to point out. So Mark's Gospel was the one that was written first. It was probably the only one that was written for sure during the lifetime of the apostles that we know. As the story goes, Peter, who could not read and write, had a young friend named Mark. So imagine that, when everything went down with the crucifixion, this young Mark was somewhere between 7 and 12 years old. So wasn't really with it. But he had a young friend named Mark who could write. And so he told the story of Jesus to Mark. Mark wrote it down, and that became the Gospel according to Mark, which is really the Gospel according to Peter. And so this is the first Gospel. And you might notice that many of the other Gospels, especially Matthew and Luke, have a lot of the same things. That's because this Gospel passage, this Gospel version became the base version. Now remember, it wasn't all written down at once, and so these are stories that were told over and over again. And then we have Matthew and Luke. And so what's interesting about Matthew and Luke is Matthew and Luke take Mark, more or less, and they add other things. Now, they were each sort of created and surrounded by communities. Matthew's gospel was most likely written by a Syrian-speaking community, and then Luke's gospel was one that was circulated and created largely by Gentile Christian communities. But each of them brought in stories that were important to their communities, and they both also included another source that's known as Q. Now, Q is a set of other stories and sayings of Jesus that are present in Matthew and Luke, but not in Mark, and of course not in John, because John's doing his own thing. All in all, it's pretty cool. And so over this past month, we got a chance to read all of Matthew, all of Mark, and the majority of Luke, and I hope that you've had a chance to enjoy all of it. A couple other things to pay attention to in Matthew and Luke: we get the birth narratives, whereas Mark starts at the baptism of Jesus, and also paying attention to how the different Passion narratives unfold. And so, for example, the Passion according to Mark is perhaps the most famous because it has the best music, in my opinion, in terms of musical scores. But the Passion according to Luke is the one that I think is the most dramatic, where Peter, after denying Jesus, has Jesus turn back and look at him. That's totally crazy. And the Passion according to Matthew has the most Jewish symbolism. All in all, we've done a lot of great reading during this past month. And in the month of November, we'll have a chance not only to finish Luke, but to finish John, and to do many other things. Anyways, I hope that that's a helpful summary, or at least some helpful facts about what we read in October. And I look forward to continuing to read the Bible with you.